is towards the beginning, and he's talking about like living in the past, and it brought up a whole thing about past and future, and Alan Watts talked about how the past and its impact on the present, and how the future has an impact on the present because it's all decided out of the present. Can't find my note though. So if anyone has anything to start with, go ahead and share.
Sometimes I get worried in this PDF that I'm reading the wrong chapter actually because it happened the first week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like I ended up scrolling down too much, and then I was in the second chapter in the first week, and then I like had to go back later in the week, and I was like, wait a second, I read the wrong one. But this one is the I got it, I lost it one, right?
Yes, that was.
Okay,
I got it,
perfect.
I lost it.
Well, the thing I really liked about this was that at one point he was explaining that when you've reached this awakening, that you're already getting pulled to non-awakening side.
Mm-hmm.
How he explained that like once that happens that you start getting pulled back, and I just really liked that. I just liked how using that like opposite pull, that gravitational pull, how he used that to describe it as well.
That metaphor was very good.
Yeah, because it's something like I feel I don't know if you guys feel that way. Kind of like when we finish book club and then we go back into the world afterwards, and it's like whoop, but now you're just getting pulled right back in.
It is very magnetic. I mean, I guess I never even thought about it that way until it was written.
Yeah.
But it's very, very magnetic, and it's really interesting when you start to like identify what makes it magnetic, like being in the ego. And I mean, especially, I think this is such a great book just in general to be reading because Rave, I think you said it first, but having like a psychedelic experience or something like that, and the kind of like mindset that you get put into afterwards. I don't know. I like this metaphor of like, you're literally lifting off, like awakening is just like leaving Earth. And your ego is the gravity that pulls you back in.
Yeah.
And then sorry.
I was just gonna add to that to say like psychedelics feels a lot like an airplane, right? Like you can get above the clouds, but you are coming back down. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it definitely gives you like an airplane, or what is the thing like the Red Bull guy? They almost go to space. Like they're like on the barrier of like air and space, and they jump and do like skydiving. I would say that's pretty accurate, Rave.
Yeah,
Use that metaphor in here too. That's funny about the rocket going up and then just losing momentum.
I like that metaphor as well because there definitely seems to be like a threshold where like once you like let go enough, like not coming back down, unless it's like a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
I did sorry if you need
no, that's it.
Going. I was just saying that he describes conditioning as well, like helps you realize where that gravitational force kind of comes from too, like just the conditioning of yourself, all those influences.
Programming.
Yeah.
I think that's where it gets kind of complicated, like when you start to look at your programming, because I mean, if you objectively look at your programming, you can't say all of it's really that bad, right? And so then we're kind of conflicted. Like some of our programming is actually pretty good, but it's it's kind of scary. Just the thought of like that deprogramming those parts, and in terms of like with awakening and stuff.
I think he mentioned too, like there's this notion of the person that has experienced this isn't a jerk or something like that. I feel like it was down at the end. I also have trouble keeping track of where the the points are that I wanted
I
to
know. I'm old
bring
school.
up.
I like to
But
mark up the book. I like circle the page if I
yeah,
have a note on it. It's just like for my quick
I
remembering.
used to take like post-its and stick them in everywhere.
Yep, I did that too. I would put that at the very beginning of the chapter if I had like a specific note, like where to start.
Oh my god, guys.
Yeah.
I'm like a chaos monkey. I just listen to the audiobook.
I don't know how you keep track of anything. You have to write down the timestamp for everything.
Oh yeah, some way.
I don't know
You
where
know
it
what
is,
it
but there's. Oh, here it is. It was something about somebody has a great awakening experience, but is still sort of a jerk. It was
Yeah.
on. It was on last page actually. It's like kind of funny that there's like this notion of the person who has experienced this is like this like great being. But that you can still like have these qualities like that conditioning piece of like, sometimes you want to get rid of certain parts of the conditioning, but it's what makes you you, I guess.
But it's so funny because like trying to get rid of the conditioning, like to make an enemy out of the programming conditioning to a point will give you another condition. Like you'll become like you'll just become obsessed with trying to get rid of the conditioning, and now you have a new condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That honestly connects to, I'm still reading Krishnamurti. I think it's like so in line with some of this stuff. And
Oh
he
yeah.
just drives the point home of like, study everything, of like anything that arises in you, even if you don't like it, put that not liking aside and go into it so you can understand it. As soon as you look for solutions to problems, you're distancing yourself from the problem, you're creating conflict. And so like, in order to understand these states that you would prefer not to have, you have to totally abandon not wanting to have them. Don't condemn them. Just totally be with it and understand it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like you talked about, you like about meditating when you have a little pain. It's sort of that's what it made me think of you sharing that.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's, I'm finding myself having a much easier time opening to uncomfortable physical sensations. And I think it's because of that practice. But what is so much harder is like the mental activity that you wish wasn't there, or like you feel guilty
Yes. Yeah.
about whatever you're doing. That is so much because your tendency to identify with it is so much stronger.
And it's not as like with certain like physical things, it could be taxing, and sometimes it's just easier to relieve, right? It's easier to like distance yourself from physical discomforts, but like in the mental space, it's always there. Like no matter, like there's not really like anything that's gonna
Yeah.
you. I mean, there's like drugs, right? That's like something that's a path that people take is they try to use drugs to help that part, but it's still there. All of that is just avoidance, right? Like it's not really to put down anyone trying to avoid anything. It just is what it is, right? It's
Yeah.
avoidance.
Yeah. All this stuff is like so interesting because the more I like study it, I see how everything is almost like a consequence of each other. You know?
Hmm.
And I feel like that's the gravitational pull that like brings us back because you let go of like one thing, but there's so many other things that i- is like a consequence of each other that you're not letting go of. Um, for example, recently I was like trying to like understand forgiveness. A lot has been going on in my life for like past 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
like understanding like forgiveness and stuff like that. And an aspect of forgiveness is why what happens when you don't forgive is that you get into like this karmic cycle where this emotion of compensation takes place inside you. Oh, I want to compensate for something, Oh, I felt bad now I want him to feel bad as well, even though that's how I feel, right? You know what I mean? And irrespective of what is right, what is wrong, or whatever, when you do try to like compensate, you're you're in a karmic cycle, you know. You're in a cycle which is like a consequence of something else. Now they will also like start to compensate. Now you're in the cycle. Now you're stuck in the cycle, right? But I feel like forgiveness like takes you out of the cycle. I feel like that's the kind of like dynamic where spiritual experience is also there. There is like we are almost like letting go of a certain aspect. However, that aspect is like a consequence of something else. But but we're not conscious of that. So it like comes back because you haven't let go of the original um, root. You know, that's what I feel like the dynamic at least.
I'm often pushed to like go into what does it mean when we say to let go, because I don't know, originally when I started to hear people say that, it sounds like push away, like that's how I just intuited it, of like get it out of here. um but now I'm
Yeah,
starting to understand it more as like just don't identify with it, right? Something's happening,
yeah,
I don't need to really do anything about it. I don't need to
mm,
say that it's me, it's mine, I need to do, whatever. I can watch it. I think sort of like what you're pointing at, if there's
yeah,
some type of thing and my instinct is to compensate, I can also observe the instinct to compensate. I can let it go by just watching it. Um, and then it often just resolves itself, right? Instead of going out and doing some type of action to try to make it go away.
yeah. You know what's funny? They say forgiveness is divine. Yeah, What- to for to err is human, but to forgive is divine. Makes sense. But why is it divine? I ask myself. Why is forgiveness divine? Then the question is because oh you're letting go. Okay, I'm letting go. Yeah, of whatever stuff. I'm choosing to let go. But then the question comes, who's choosing to let go? Yeah. And I feel like that's not the ego. And I feel like that's where like the divine quality really comes from. Where it's like there is something divine about letting go of the there's something divine of the being who's choosing to let go of the ego. I don't know what. I don't know what. But there seems to be something like that. Which I find is interesting. And I kind of like now understand, you know, why forgiveness is divine because you have to like let go of your ego almost to like forgive or a aspect
Yeah.
of yourself.
Identify with it less.
Yeah, identify with it less. But then who's identifying with it less? You know, I feel
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting question because then you have to decide like who is it and like where's that judgment come from?
yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
Like
Any pleasure or any pain is coming. Who is experiencing this? You know?
Yeah. He kind of points at that in a funny way in this chapter by saying like, I'm not really talking to anyone. This is just like
Yeah,
awareness talking to awareness or whatever,
yeah.
like.
So it's so funny because that almost every spiritual person says. Even Baron Katie. I actually spoke to Baron Katie guys. I'll put a video.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, I spoke to her and she was like, I asked her, I was like processing some problem and I asked her, Parent Kitty, you think there's ego? She was like, oh, honey, there is no. She didn't say there is no ego. She said everything is a ego, and something like that. And she's like, actually, I'm not talking to you. You're talking to myself. I said, okay, cool. Which is interesting. Even Ram Das, I feel, kind of says that. Alan Watts also kind of points to that.
Alan Watts has said he's playing a role called Alan Watts.
Yeah, fucking hell, dude. You know what? Like, fucking, I think that's where like the Alan Watts melancholic vibe also comes from, right? You're giving a lecture to no one but to someone at the same time. You look at it as perfect.
Well, it's interesting, like, you brought up forgiveness. It's like, what is that really? It's, if you take that, this whole thing is about trying to see clearly and just like he sort of points out, observe that a lot of the activity in our world is just conditioning, cause and effect, right? So and this points at the free will question, which Nina is still on the hook. She has to answer that, right, Vito?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Maybe
we
you
yeah.
want
guys would have
answers.
forgotten.
Uh,
I thought about that last night. I was like, oh no, they asked me the question.
Hey, you
We're
gotta.
expecting answers. You had an extra week.
We're
yeah,
not gonna go. Right, but like when you soften this idea of free of other beings, really, like if I'm coming to the realization that I am not who I think I am, then other people aren't who I think they are, and who's the one causing harm, right? There's just cause and effect happening. So how can you hold a grudge in that case? You're like holding a grudge against a tornado, right? A tornado's nature is just to rip through and destroy.
yeah,
Um, so what option do you have but forgiveness? It just happens
yeah,
automatically in that case, you know?
yeah. That's what even like I feel like that's like a very. I think even in Christianity that's like a very popular theme. Forgive them for they know not sin or something. Forgive them
Right,
because
yeah.
they're ignorant or something like that. Which is
And asking for forgiveness for yourself, especially.
uh, oh man, yeah,
I mean, that's the internal part you've been mentioning, Rave. Like, so like you get to a point where you are a master at forgiving everyone else, but what about yourself?
yeah.
Hmm.
I think you have to forgive everything and yourself. That's the
Most would
kicker.
say you couldn't even accomplish that without starting with forgiving yourself.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like I'm coming to forgiveness is such an interesting emotion for me because it not only points at the truth, but it also points at the emotional aspect of the truth, which is more loving. Why is truth love? If I ask myself, there's no reason for truth to be love, compassion, which most people seem to be pointing to. Oh, it's something beyond us, like love, compassion, goodness. Why is it love? Why is it compassion? I feel like to forgive, you need to like expand you have to like dare to love. That's
Feel
like
like
the bottom line question. Do you dare to love the other person when they don't love you back? Like it's like because it's like you have to like dissolve the ego for that. Do you do you dare to love? Yeah.
well, forgiveness is to me just like acceptance of all that is basically like
Oh,
not attaching any like judgment to it. What were you gonna say, Boots? Sorry.
no. I was interrupting you. Go ahead.
That's fine.
I just I was gonna say like forgiveness is just a sub form of acceptance.
Yeah.
I
And
was
what I
thinking the
feel like
same exact thing.
when you say letting go, I feel like letting go is really acceptance too, of just
Yeah.
accepting all that is the way it is.
Yeah.
That truly is that, letting
Yeah.
go piece.
Yeah.
It's just that acceptance. And then curiosity too, right? Like
Yeah.
curiosity to learn about somebody else or learn where things are coming from inside of you. Then approaching it with that acceptance instead of that judgment side.
Yeah. I feel acceptance is your divine self letting go. That's what I feel.
And then that also is love already, because what is love besides unconditional acceptance?
Yeah. You know what love is? This is what I wanted the last. I feel like I understand love. I think what love is. Everything like the love touches integrates, and that force that keeps integrates itself is love. I feel like, and that makes sense if how that is true because I feel like love has that quality of like integrating stuff.
I mean, I could just be speaking directly from like just like from states where I was on like psychedelics, but like when I'm in a certain space in that experience, I just think that that's what we are. Like we are love. Like
Mm,
that is our existence. And because that is like the true pure like love would be considered like an ultimate form of acceptance. And it's funny because I used to think, like when I started thinking about acceptance, and you kind of think of or to me, it's kind of felt like you just keep diving deeper, deeper, and deeper into acceptance. Like you just learn how far and how much there is to accept, and it's kind of like feels almost like levels and levels of acceptance. And to me, this kind of felt like, well, eventually I'm just gonna sit still and do nothing because I'm just gonna accept, and there's nothing to do because like everything is driven by some ego need of the ego. Like I want, I need, I consume. Um, and then I realized that if I sat and did nothing, I would eventually, without any sort of like conscious effort or decision, I would become hungry and I would become thirsty, and I would just naturally feel inclined to move. And if I was in this like pure acceptance and just accepting whatever came up, then I would like eat and drink. And so I guess that to me was like um I guess a connection of how you can act and be active in acceptance, and acceptance isn't complete like absence and void of action or doing anything at all. But it took a while for me to kind of like wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
It's funny because now, like, there lies the answer to the free will question, right? Where it's like when you strip everything down, there's that like natural, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, like something driving you in a direction.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of just speaks to how you're really just a part of one big thing, because like there is an element like you're hungry when you're hungry, and if you follow that, you'll be pushed by something. There is a push. Like I don't think that we identify with it as much. And then what gets tricky is like it's almost like colors mixing. Like we mix that natural push with oh well, I decided I wanted to go eat. Like I decided I wanted pizza, and this is all in my control. It's like, well, yeah, sure, but you could have had anything, and you would have had anything because you're hungry. And so that's the other side of it. And I think that's I don't know. I think there's just something where you when you kind of like start slipping into this, you can start seeing that relationship between these like forces of like ego and whatever that natural force is, like whatever wherever hunger comes from.
Yeah. The free will question is interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear everyone's like sees this as acceptance. Like that's just really cool. I mean,
Oh,
Rave, you
really?
said that you had that on your mind. Yeah, and Vito,
Even
you brought it up, and
yeah.
Nino.
I feel
Yeah, my
everything
next
is
question for
acceptance.
Vito,
Uh,
my next question for him was going to be, what difference do you see between forgiveness and acceptance? Because in my mind, I was like, these are the same things. So that is really funny.
so so here's the thing. I feel like forgiveness is acceptance. Yeah. But I feel forgiveness is so, because when I, at least in the past, when I started look at the truth, what is the truth? Emptiness, nothingness, the void, everything, God. There's nothing very nothing that there's nothing emotional about that aspect of truth when I was like seeking it. When I was trying to understand it. However, emotions such as forgiveness, compassion, kindness, I feel like they still point at truth, but you're thinking about it in an emotional way, and I feel like I can wrap my head around how truth is absolute love and how absolute love is acceptance. Because when you forgive, you have to like love everything, and what does that mean? Because to overcome forgiveness, you have to love either yourself or the situation and accept it. But I feel like that is like a little bit different from just trying to like make your mind empty and the thoughts go away.
Like forgiveness, compassion, you could argue is like the effort of acceptance, right? Like
Yeah, you have to accept it through love. You can't accept it through something else.
at the same time, I think it can be interpreted like it all means the same thing. Like it's all
Yeah.
acceptance is all those things: compassion, forgiveness. We
Yes.
just call it these things. It's just another way to define it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting that we have all these names almost for the same thing. And
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
but I think that the notion is like compassion takes effort, forgiveness takes effort.
Yeah, and you need to like
In
love.
reality, it doesn't have to if you are starting from a place of acceptance the
Yeah.
get go.
Yeah. Because I feel
Then you don't, yeah.
for me,
Sorry, go.
no, no, I feel for the in the context of, let's say I like throw all the spiritual concepts away and just talk about forgiveness. And if for that, the only thing I can tell is to love everything. Love yourself and love the world. You are doing acceptance. It's a very sneaky way to do acceptance. Yeah, but the other person doesn't have. They wouldn't have to know it, but they still have the experience of the forgiveness aspect. You know, but it is never as it never look as profound as this is like the truth and how everything connects. I don't think they'll have that experience, but I feel like forgiveness is something that points at the another facet of truth, which is like love. I think it's the same thing, the same facet, looking at a different angle, I guess. I don't know.
Well, another perspective, sort of offered in a Jung in Jung's direction, is like you were asking, like how do you forgive, and like where does it come from? And like
Yeah.
from Jung, he talks about how all that you, I mean, like one of the things he talks about is everything that you condemn, you are ignorant to in yourself, and
Mm,
then the other thing is uh, how like you see Watts puts it as like you see the rascal in yourself, and then you know it's there for everybody else. So you just know that you're all capable of the same thing. Like you're
yeah.
all, like we like complicate it because we like do the whole nature versus nurture stuff, and we say like, well,
Yeah.
this is why they are the way they are, and I couldn't be that way. But
Mhm.
often when we approach this with empathy, it's like a beginner's empathy, and you're like, well, I can see how they got there, but I wouldn't have done that. But you're still acting like you and not them. And
Yeah.
if you really put yourself in someone's situation, it becomes more clear why they are the way they are, and you can also see how like it could be the same for you, because
Yeah.
like speaking of like awakening in a cosmic sense, it is you. Like you
Yeah.
are like that, and Jung's way of just like seeing yourself and seeing that potential in yourself, knowing that you could be, to quote Watts, like the biggest rascal that there could ever have been. And you see that within yourself. It just becomes much easier just to forgive it in others because you're like, that's also in me.
Yeah.
It becomes like
Yeah.
you're forgiving yourself in a way.
Yeah. And it's like if your goal is to like forgive, or if your goal is to love, then you kind of have to like first of all become aware of the truth, become aware of who you truly are without any judgment, and then accept it.
Hmm. What were you gonna say, Rafe?
Oh, that I don't remember what talk it was, but Alan Watts referred to it as the principle of irreducible rascality.
Yeah, that's it. I like he really loves that term rascal, because like it's a very intentional term too. Because like a rascal is like very aware of what they're doing, but they're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of endearing. It's not just like judging negatively.
Yeah, it's very playful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Forgiveness is uh, you,
So I
you
mean,
know
it's just it becomes a measure of like how much of yourself can you see in somebody, and like in a state of awakening, that's all you see is just you see you're not separate. Like everything is non-dual. So
it,
you are everybody, and so there's the forgiveness.
it's so funny because I even made a video on this today. It'll premiere after this because I should release this video today on forgiveness. But then I thought, you know what, I'll release it after the call. But yeah, if you guys are interested, it'll premiere like 15 minutes afterwards. I'll send you the link. I like it.
Cool.
It's nice. Uh, but yeah, I want to introduce like a new component which I never really did with anything in the past, and that's like the karmic cycle. Because I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna get this like you're like participating in the karmic cycles, like how in Mahabharata one guy kills the other guy, the five brothers, and the five brothers tries to kill the like 100 brothers, blah, blah. You know, it's like there is a cycle that you are participating in whenever you're acting out in an ego from a place of ego. And one thing I really understand is that people like Buddha or Jesus, they don't really have like a trail, a karmic trail, It's almost as if they are outside the loop. Even Aaron was right. It's almost as if they're outside the karmic loop and they're still playing the karmic game from like a detached view. There's no like, oh, I'm gonna get rich for that. I have to like sacrifice this. There's nothing like that. It's also detached, and which I also feel is very interesting. That how acceptance can also like get you out of the entire loop.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah, I sort of see it. So one good analogy I've heard is one teacher talking about as you're, coming into this spirituality and getting a greater sense of ethics, you're like, it's like you're on a motorboat in a lake and you realize like you've been having the motor going full speed and like you're making huge waves and the spiritual process is just like turning that motor down a little bit and so the waves you're creating are getting less and less and less.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, damn.
it's like a settling, you're not rocking your
Mm.
environment as much with your moving around.
Because you're not taking
But to
anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, to me, I don't know. There's still the notion of good karma, right? So you can argue that Buddha created a massive amount of good karma by like forming the intention to help others and acting in helpful ways.
Yeah,
But the notion of getting off the wheel of karma is like my stability or my awareness doesn't really depend on whether there's good karma or bad karma coming my way because I'm equally open to, equally accepting of something really negative coming or something really positive coming. So
yeah,
karma can keep doing whatever it wants to do, but I'm just going to stay right here and be totally equanimous and stable.
yeah. Like someone like, yeah, there was a this is a Buddha story where a guy comes and like screams at him and fucking like spits spits on him or spits on the ground or whatever and like leaves because he thinks oh this like some random guy trying to like get money or something like that. He doesn't know that he's a Buddha. But however, he comes to
Mm,
know and he like finds out that this guy helped his family and because of him, other people are doing well and stuff like that. So he becomes like super guilty. So he goes to the Buddha the next day, like asking for forgiveness. And I think Buddha says, yeah, there's nothing to forgive because you're not the same person who was yesterday. So there's nothing really to
mm,
forgive. And I feel like that perspective, at that moment, I feel he did not participate in the karmic loop. Just because he just accepted, whatever. And it's like, even this is like, yeah, whatever. There is no pleasure gotten from, oh, this guy realized, learned his lesson, or there's no pain that he received from, oh, this guy's just respecting. Both are like missing, which I
mm,
feel is like default to good karma. But I feel like that's only possible because he's just like, I don't play this game. I'm just gonna be me, just love everything, and then you fuck off. Yeah. Yeah, which I find is very interesting, the entire dynamic.
mm. I
Even,
like the little segment.
I'm sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I like the little segment in the chapter where he says he sort of points out this funny little thing that some people do who have these awakening experiences, like that guy Jim Newman I talk about, who when
Hmm.
you ask him questions, he's so adamant that like there's nothing you can do, you know.
I shall not
You're
answer
just
this by
yeah, there's just
humans.
stuff happening. What do you want me to say? Like, and you know, people come to him and say like, you know, do I have a moral responsibility to act in a certain way in my work? And he'll just say no. You have absolutely no responsibility because there's nothing you can do. So do whatever you want. And it's like I'm like cringing in the background, like, geez, I don't know if this is what we should be telling, you know. And it's like this chapter kind of like pointing at that and saying, you know, that's kind of a hang up because you're holding on so hard to this absolute view that you actually need to be able to come back down into this relative view that other people, even though you don't see them as people, um, in the absolute view, you need to be able to walk through both worlds. And
Yeah,
this
Mm-hmm.
is
yeah.
what I think someone like Buddha really nailed
Hmm.
because
100%.
I think it's in the Diamond Sutra. One of the most memorable lines for me was, "Even though I don't perceive a single being, I vow to liberate them all." And it's just like absolutely seeing both ways, you know.
Can you repeat that?
It's even though I don't perceive a single being, I vow to liberate them all.
Yeah, and that's why I bought this karmic thing in. So let's say I did accept and I'm off the karmic phase, right? That doesn't mean that the rest of the people are not. They're still playing the game, you know? And now you have like a
Mm.
choice. You either can like take them out so that it'll just like keep decreasing, or you just like let the thing go bad. And either one I feel is really fine. But I feel like the vow of Bodhisattva is really like now you are out of the wheel. Now your job is to like what else can you do in the earth, you know? Now we are out, now what? You might as well like
Mm.
remove other people and then fuck off. That's what I feel.
Well, the Bodhisattva vows are interesting too because they sort of like acknowledge that what you're trying to do is impossible, but you're going to try to do it anyway. You know,
It's very
suffering is
meaningless. Yeah.
suffering is infinite. I vow to put an end to it. But I mean, to me, that conveys the non-attachment to outcome. Like
Mm.
the thing we're trying to do to accomplish it, you could say is impossible. Yet here we are, and this is what we're going to do because we believe this is the way to move in the world.
Yeah. And you know, all of this is an expression. Is that's one thing I understood about spirituality, you know. And I think my biggest mistake, I always treated it as an information. It's only information I'm consuming. Yeah. But it's someone's expression, like a music, that you really have to like feel, I feel. Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like unless you're in a situation where either you can forgive or get into karma and you like listen to someone talk about forgiveness, it's very hard to like actually understand forgiveness. At least that's how it's been for me. Where like I'm in a situation where acceptance was the right path, but then fucking I listen to Alan Watts and it's like, yeah, be very honest with how you feel. Never be dishonest with how you feel. So like, okay, damn, you know, yeah. There's an aspect of
I remember
spirituality which is like that.
it reminds me of a Ram Dass story where he was like, "My guru told me, what did he say? Tell the truth and love everyone."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, the truth is, I'm angry."
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my, that's like a famous story right? That like stuck with me. Do I tell the truth or do I love everyone? How? I don't get it.
Y-
You tell the truth,
You
you
know,
love
Rave,
everyone.
it's very interesting that very often in this sort of space of conversation, people come and they start asking questions like, with this, do I have a moral responsibility? That came up in Alan Watts' question and answer section where someone said, as God, do I have um, an obligation to ameliorate the pain and suffering in the world? Like, do I have to, like, because I have this power, or because I have this knowledge, do I have an obligation to do anything with it? Um, I just think that's interesting. It's like one of the first questions on someone's mind when, like, with in this case, uh, and it's a form of seeking. Like it's at least I see it as that, um, and it's just very interesting to have this higher experience and still be left with the same sort of problem. Like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I feel like when you really like accept it, life actually becomes more non-personal and more fun. And like it's playing GTA 5, not saying like kill people and stuff like that, but uh, it's more non-personal and it's more fun. And what else can a person do? I don't know. I mean, of course, I
Well,
feel
it
like
just makes me think of Ram Dass saying like you don't have any right to. I mean, he really says you don't have more right to do any, to like take anything away from anyone. So you could take that as like you don't have a right to like take like, do anything about anyone's doing because
yeah,
it's a process and you don't know where they are in the process and you don't like any like assertion from you is you know saying that you know better than the process. I mean, from that point of view, at least.
Mhm.
you know, the perspective I have on that is like I feel every human being is like a permission slip for every other human being.
What do you mean?
A permission slip. Like this too is a valid way to live. You know, a permission slip, a slip of like I always wondered why are there people on caves sitting on caves doing nothing. Why is that? I feel like that is a statement to all other humans. Like this too is a valid way to live. This also is like another option that you could live, live like. And I feel like every human is like that, a permission slip.
Okay, I think I get what you're meaning. So like someone being a certain way is like it's okay to be that way in
Yeah,
some
it gives
sense.
you
Or it's
permission to like be
possible
that
to do
way.
that way.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
leading by example.
yeah,
Yeah, their own example.
and I feel like that's what I feel acceptance is. I feel acceptance is something that when you truly do, you have like now a choice to live your true authentic self, and that doesn't
Man, that
have
can
to
go
be.
deep pretty quick.
It's like the
Yeah.
first person to hit the dance floor at the party.
That's exactly what it's like. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
basically,
And no,
basically.
it was I would say I don't want to be the person. I want to be the first
Huh?
person in the buffet line.
Huh?
Mhm.
Why
I want
do
to be
we
the
do
first
that?
person. Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, it's like it's a spectrum of like how comfortable are you of standing out,
Huh?
or
Mhm.
but really you're just leading the way.
Well, it
you
is
know,
kind of like trying to hide those things inside of you all the time, right? Like, can't admit that I'm this way.
well, see,
Yeah.
that was what I was gonna make a note on of like how deep this goes so quickly because, like, all right, so everyone's a permission slip, and you see how they are with their life, and you're like, all right, like that means I can be that way, and that can be me. But at the
Mm,
same time, that person is going probably has some like internal guidance, internal monologue that is guiding the way that they're being. So like maybe the way they're being isn't really like the way they want to be being because it's like heavily influenced in some sort of way and they got that from someone else who got that from someone else. It's just
Yeah.
interesting.
And it's
mm,
all like Indira's net. That's how I
Yeah.
feel. Yeah, it's like that. Is Indira's net? If it's like if you imagine like a spider web, and if you remember, if you put a water drop at every intersection, you know how like one water drop has the reflection of everything of all other water drops within the water drop, and each water drop has that.
Mhm.
I feel like
Hmm.
that's how we are also. So
I kind of think about Indra's net and then I put like a black and white or a red and blue spectrum. And I'm like, they're all connected, but they all have different flavors.
yeah, yeah,
Somewhere on
yeah,
this really grand spectrum.
yeah. You know what? I think I think at least when someone gets into like spirituality in the beginning, you really only identify with spirituality as like a guy sitting under a tree or in a cave or on top of a mountain or I don't know, right? But then you like start search deeper and you see so many different flavors, especially in Japan. I feel that's like f- famous in Japan. There's like a book called Zen and Archery. They,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I think we've talked about that book before.
yeah,
Not like read it, but we've referenced it.
yeah.
Probably.
Raven, maybe you mentioned it.
The Zen
I've
in
never read
Archery.
that one, but it does sound familiar.
Yeah, there's a book called the Zen in Archery, where they talk about the Zen thing in archery. There are like carpenters who like Zen out, who like really get into the
Hmm.
flow state. They love what they're doing. They really love it. There's nothing about it feels like putting in effort for money for just doing it in that moment present. And I feel like Alan Watts also is like Zen, just giving lecture. I feel like in Jiddu Krishnamurti, there's a talk between Krishnamurti and fuck, this is like a famous scientist. I think David Bohm. I don't know. I think it is. It isn't. Some senior scientist, right? And Krishnamurti asked him, the world is dying this way, is the system collapsing, pa 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 pa. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he asked him, so what will you do to like solve this? He's like, I don't know, I'd probably still be doing this. And he asked Krishnamurti again, like, what did you do, Krishnamurti? It's like, "Hmm, probably nothing different. I still keep giving talks. Yeah, and then fuck off. And I and I feel like there is a unique role that everyone does play. And I feel just because
Hmm.
speakers are popular, we are more aware of them. But I feel like so many other people who are doing acceptance, zen, or something in their own way, and that we don't even know about. Like sports players, people who write, calligraphy, knitting. There was like a Ram Das thing where Ram Das was giving like a lecture, and this woman, she had like this netted hat or something on her head, where he was like talking about some deep, profound stuff, and she was like nodding away, like yeah, as if she understood. And this guy was like shocked, like I'm talking about like deep, mystical stuff. How does she know? And then
Hmm.
he goes to her and talks after the thing lecture. I'm like, yeah, I couldn't help but notice you were like nodding along, like yeah, because I kind of understand what you do. Oh, so what did you do to like reach these experiences? Oh, I net. Like what?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, that's funny. I feel like acceptance is just a overarching concept that brings out the true self from everyone. And I don't feel that needs to be something like, oh, should I also become a speaker now and like do what you do. I feel that's not acceptance.
Sorry.
You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I think identifying it as love too was a good shift from our conversation today, because we always circle back to the acceptance bit, but I mean, it really is love. I mean, if we talk about pure acceptance.
Yeah, I feel it's the same thing. Acceptance, love. You need to love. You need to accept. To accept, you need to love. I, it's funny. It's like a cruel joke, and I like it. So,
It was interesting. Yesterday, I had a couple friends over as part of we're doing a Nietzsche book club,
ooh,
Oh
and
man.
yeah, it's a good
nice.
one. One of my friends is like super into it, so he's leading the way with stuff, which is nice. Um, but there's a passage in there. This is Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and there's a passage in there about war and warriors or whatever, and he like goes into really praising warriors who are courageous and this and that and all this other stuff. And the meaning we took away from it was that, there's certain people in life who aren't at all curious or interested about their self being, their self nature, but rather their archetype is to do a certain thing fully with their entire being. And so for some people, it is to,
Mm,
stand up and fight. And that is their nature. And, being accepting of that too, of like, yeah, I'm a reflective person and he's a fighting person. And that's just how it is.
yeah, yeah. Even like
Mm.
samurais, right? They like, I'm gonna like give my entire self for this one art, and they find zen in that.
Hmm.
I mean, really approaching all these kinds of people and ways of being with acceptance, I mean, their value can easily be seen. You know, the
Yeah,
warrior archetype, just very intent
yeah.
with their craft.
I want to like bring introduce like a new emotion, I guess, or value, which I feel is excitement, which also I feel is an acceptance. It's an acceptance with an enthusiastic flavor. Is I feel what excitement is. You know, if you have to like give flavors, feel like excitement. I think that's what when someone said, "Oh, you have to follow your highest excitement," and I feel like that to follow your highest excitement, you need to be accepting of whatever could come and not be attached to any outcome. You know, and then trust the moment that this will like lead you whatever you want or whatever. But that's all ego talking, right? But if you just do what you like doing, I feel like there's zen in that too. And I feel ultimately that's what for me I would like spirituality like to bring to everyone, I guess. Just the courage to like follow their excitement, I feel. Because what
Excitement's
else?
an interesting one
Yeah,
because I could see that having different flavors, right? There's a sort of
mm,
excitement when you're totally present doing something that you love, for
yeah,
sure. But there's also excitement that's very future leaning. That's like I have
yeah,
expectations about something that's about to happen and I'm looking forward to it. And in that moment, you're, toppling over into the future, into your
yeah.
ideas about what's going to happen,
Mm. That's the
which
And
sort
that
of
ego
can be
part.
dangerous.
Yeah,
sets you up for a mismatch between ideas and reality.
yeah. Just be enthusiastic for this moment. But how can you be enthusiastic for this moment if you haven't not accepted this moment, you know? Which is also very interesting. Because I feel like
Mm.
that is the emotion for like purpose. To give if acceptance is for suffering for purpose, it would be excitement. I'm not saying they're different, but it's like a different flavor, different tone to them. It's following your excitement. It really resonates with. And it does give you a profound sense of peace too. It's interesting. Like when you get into the flow or when you're doing something that you really like doing, it's almost like a high that you come off of.
Yeah, I mean, I've also gotten into flow states that are very, I guess, agitated. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're so wrapped up in what you're doing that it's like the body just falls out of your awareness. So when you come back to reality, it's like, oh my God, I need to eat. I'm exhausted. I need to go to the
Yeah,
bathroom.
yeah,
Very jarring. Kind of like you kind of get
Really.
overstimulated in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. There was like a story where there was like a king, and there was like there's an old guy, right, who used to like give gifts in like Chinese, I think it's Chinese food. They usually just give gifts to everyone, you know, just give gifts. And this is the guy, but poor guy doesn't have like much clothes, but he gives just gifts to like anyone that comes passes his way and stuff like that. And king notices it, but like just ignores that. I think the next day, like the king's the highest knowledge guy, or whatever, court jester. He comes and say, "Oh, king, I have like a very sad news. The most wisest guy in the kingdom has dead. Is dead." Like, oh, who is it? It's like, oh, it was the guy who was giving gifts. That guy, that poor dude, is like, yeah, that guy was like the most enlightened dude, you know. And I feel the guy just giving gifts, you know. And I feel like out of everything he didn't want to give speeches, he didn't want to do this thing, he just wanted to like share, and that's what excited him, and that's what he ended up doing, and he died, you know. And something very beautifully innocent about, not innocent, authentic about that, which I feel like acceptance really brings out of a person.
What brings out?
A very like authentic, mm, the authentic self, like that guy wanted to give gifts. Some people wanted to give a speech. Some people want to like do archery. Some people want to like make tables, in Japan. Guy like spends carving tables and stuff, and he finds peace in that. Some people like making films, you know, and,
I think
and,
that's the energy and
mm,
sort of the awakening experience when you realize uh, it my so hard to put into words. What's here is already complete. Then all I have is stuff to share.
mm,
Because what can you offer the person who has everything? What can you take away from the person who has nothing? I mean, that's sort of the state you're in. All you have is stuff to give. Um, there was a really good line in the Nietzsche book. So it's about this character, and he starts the book as a hermit in the mountains. And I guess he has an enlightenment experience, lives up there for 10 years. And then, one day he's like, feels just the impulse to share this stuff with people. And he looks up at the sun and is like, has this whole dialogue with the sun, is like, don't you get tired of shining for no one? And the
yeah,
idea is you want to go down the mountain and just try to give it away.
yeah. And everyone wants to give different things, and I feel that's where like different flavors come out. Some people want to give an experience, some different kinds of experiences. Like like Rumi, he 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 wrote poems, and some Zen
Mm.
monk, they also like write this poem, and I really love this poem, which is about letting go, and I can't find it anywhere except this like one fucking book that like referenced it. I don't even, but I can't find it anywhere in the Google thing. Google it. It's it is this. It's a Zen small haiku. Haiku. Yeah. It's like petals of poppy, how willingly they drop, and I love that because nature I feel is like the ultimate shining example of just acceptance. Seasons come, seasons go, the petals fall. There's no tug, there's no pull. Everything is just beautiful. There's no
Mm.
attachment to anything. It's just doing its thing. Everyone is just playing their part perfectly, harmoniously.
Yeah. I love Ram Dass has a great one that he uses sometimes, which goes like, the wild geese have no mind to cast their reflection on the water. The water has no intent to receive their image.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
But yet it all happens.
I feel like that complexity becomes simplified when we be in the state of acceptance. We're not expecting something. When we like calculate, okay, when I look at this water, my image is gonna like show up this way, and the diameter of the head would be 2 pi less than the actual diameter. You know what I mean? It's not all, none of that. Just look in the water and then it shows up. There's no thinking. It's just there and it's just working. Everything just
Mm.
fits. Looking back, it makes sense. Oh, this fit because this person did this, and that led to this person doing this. Blah, 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 blah. But you can't guesstimate that for like future. That's why I feel like if everyone just did what their highest excitement is, I think the collective would also be like fixed. But I feel like that looks different for every person. That's why I feel every person like a permission slip, or you too can do whatever you're excited about, like how I am doing. And I feel like that is really the message. Like for us, this is like exciting. Just discussing and exploring the same topic of acceptance in different times, discovering it in different ways. I find it super exciting personally.
Yeah, it's like brain laundry.
Yeah, yeah, it's like brain laundry.
Too bad we didn't read this far and hear like the magnet thing. Maybe we could have made a magnet analogy
Mm,
or like metaphor with the name.
magnet, yeah. Dissolving the center is something that also comes up.
Hmm.
Yeah, The magnetic pull, right? What is that really? I don't know.
I mean, it's several things. It's a lot of areas of our programming. I mean, I think our morals are a big one. You know, like what we think is right and wrong. That's a huge pull. It's not really to say anything right or wrong about the morals, just to the fact that they're very powerful.
Hmm.
Just thoughts in general. Thoughts are so seductive and easy to believe, right?
I mean,
It
yeah,
always
we
feels like
quickly believe they're real.
Seductive. What do you mean by that word?
like it just draws you in without you really realizing.
Hmm. Why is something seductive? Like thoughts. Why is it seductive?
I mean, it's kind of up to you, right? Why is it?
I don't know. I'm thinking. Hmm.
First thing that comes to
Oh
my mind is
no! Why is
conditioning.
thoughts seductive? Let me think about it. Wow, great move, Prem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
I missed what you said, Brave.
yeah. What did you say?
So first thing that comes to mind for me is conditioning. It's just
Hmm.
going, falling back into patterns of how things have always been.
Something about I feel getting drawn into thoughts rewards you in a certain way. But what is that reward exactly? You know, some unconscious reward. I feel like.
Funny, I think like I was just thinking about just animals compared to us and nature and how they just kind of go about their business and how we always trying to condition nature in a sense of like um if even as simple as like having a dog where you're trying to make them feel guilty for something that was their nature to like go through the trash and find more
Yeah.
food. So we're like imposing our own morals onto animals, and that's like when you see like something like a baby duck getting like stalked by a predator or something, and your instinct is to save it and like go against nature. It's like we're just like imposing our own insecurities, our sense of right and wrong, and everything else. Which is kind of funny. We like get so attached to these things.
Our shoulds and shouldn'ts on the world. Yeah.
Ramdas talks about a story where I forget where he was, somewhere, and his routine was to meditate in the morning. And I guess the house cat would routinely bring in like a dead mouse
Oh
and
yeah, I remember that
bring it
story.
right in his lap while he was meditating and start eating it. And
That's funny.
yeah, all his instincts about like wanting to stop this, but then
Huh?
leaning into equanimity to just allow it to be.
I think I mean he does it so much I could just be misremembering, but he talks about like his guru showing
Yeah.
up in drag all the time. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's like sometimes the microphone, and then in this case I think I don't know if he mentioned like the cat or
Yeah.
something being
That's what
like,
even I thought about right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
My fucking girl. Look at Vase. He like brings a dead rat. So funny, right?
I mean maybe that really speaks to the value of a guru. It's just like a tool in a sense. It's a human though. It's all these experiences that you have with somebody. And then like even when, Ram Dass, for example, his guru passes, he still has like this sort of like model where he's like, that's my guru.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a useful trick to not get too lost in what's happening. If you can
Like a
have the
stake in the ground or
playfulness.
something.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because you come across teachers who really rail against the concept of a guru, like Krishnamurti just rails hard against it, of like, I'm not a guru, you shouldn't follow one, you should,
investigate everything for yourself.
Yeah, self-inquiry,
And
right?
clearly,
Mm.
they can be instructive. And you hear people talk about how being near in physical proximity to somebody who is awakened like expedites your own awakening process just by being near them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel yeah, there's a line in Kriya Yoga where it's like you don't need any guru. The guru that you have to tune into is a guru within you. And I feel like all external gurus just heighten the awareness of your guru within you, you know. And I feel like that's the only truth.
A good one would, because a good
A good
guru
one,
is
yeah,
really not looking for someone to stick around.
yeah,
Like they really like it should be sort of in the spirit of like once you get the message, hang up the phone. Like once
yeah,
you, I mean, because a guru really is only going to be a reflection of something that you're seeking or something within you. That's kind of explains the saying like when the student is ready, the master appears. Like
yeah,
I don't know how that's often put in a certain context, but really what that saying is getting at is that like once you will find the person who will teach you what you want. Like that is part of the journey. Is like you will identify a master, and then like the second part of that saying is like once the student is truly ready or whatever, the master disappears or something like that. There's something I can't remember all the words exactly, but I
hmm,
think there's something to that. Like every guru is really like what you make them out to be, and maybe that's why Krishnamurti kind of advises against it. He doesn't really, I mean, because like a lot of people who set out to be a guru are not really doing it for the best reasons.
yeah.
As to say, they have a lot of reasons.
And
And it's
honestly,
an extremely vulnerable thing because if you're going to surrender to this person, you're sort of just opening up to whatever they tell you to do, which could obviously be catastrophic if it's not a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's also a lesson, though, being tricked.
yeah,
Yeah.
What a good guru.
yeah. I feel also you are like it's also almost like a distraction too because you're trying to like follow someone else, but
Yeah,
the person you're following is yourself ultimately. It's because even the guru is the moment I see someone as a guru, it is my projection onto him of my
exactly.
weakness, you know.
It kind of takes like that guilt piece away when you can blame it on somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
It's a tool misused in that case. Like you're just using it as a scapegoat. But like, I think I mean, because like when I first learned of Ram Dass, I was like, oh, he has a guru. Oh, he's into this stuff. Oh, okay. Kind of disqualified him in a way instead of like really just going a different way about it. That was a while back, but um, just learning more in general and reading more Ram Dass, I guess it's kind of giving me that perspective of like what a guru, a good guru could be for somebody is kind of like I don't know. I immediately think of a desert, maybe because you brought up a desert earlier, but like when you're in a desert, like you could easily lose like sense of direction. I mean, if you're not like smart and following the sun or something else, like you can just be lost. And so like a guru or a form of meditation, just sort of like any sort of like ritualistic religious beliefs can be sort of like these little guideposts that help you realign and find direction. And that's really all that they need to be used for. But I think it's like when we use them, it's like too much of a good thing. Like you overuse it and it becomes something else. You become obsessed with your guru. You become
yeah.
obsessed with meditating or whatever, or just something.
Mm.
It's like a poison, you know.
Yeah.
Use in small doses, it's like elixir. But
You
use too
used
much,
it to
it's
get rid of a condition and you got a new condition.
mm,
Yeah. There's all these horrifying stories coming out of the Tibetan tradition. I don't know if you guys are aware of like gurus and sexual assault and these kinds of things, and
really.
using the language of like open up to experience to try to get students to sleep with them. Yeah,
My
not
gosh.
good.
That's why I
I mean,
love audio
it's
recordings and stuff like that because it's so pure in nature. What you gonna do? Try to contact Alan Watts, you know? Yeah,
Hmm.
guy's dead. Are you in Krishnamurti's talks? was just trying to guide you through by not being there, and I feel like that's the best, honestly.
There's a really like almost eerie and comforting quality of like listening to recordings of somebody who's passed away. It's like he's kind of still here talking, you know, like it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Wasn't the last thing Alan Watts said is like the only thing I wish is that I could keep doing this without a body. It's like you kind of are, you know.
Yeah.
Much granted.
That's good. Isn't that crazy? He died in 1950, right? Something like that.
He died in the 70s.
70s, yeah. And still, it's like 2020, you know. Still, we're listening to him because there's no human who came that articulated stuff the way he did. Holy shit!
I mean, language and words that was his art.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how he said. He had a way, and he like studied like where words came from and where language came from, and I mean, he found what you could find through music or through any other art. He just found it's all connected. Like people were talking about similar things, but he actually had like the formula for it. Like he could like break apart a language and say this is what it translates to, and this is the culture and where it came from, and there you are. It's a very intellectual scholar way into things.
Yeah.
I love when he does that with words and the roots of like Maya is the Hindu word for the illusion, but it also reduces to like meter from whatever, you know, like European descent of like when you measure things, it's an illusion.
Have you
I mean,
reached the part
it's
in this
very. Go ahead.
No, have you reached a part in this book where it's like the guy talks about how everyone wants to be a Buddha or a Jesus, but they were Buddha and Jesus just because they were being true to who they are and stuff like that, you know?
Like, are you asking if he's talked about that so far?
Yeah. I can't remember which chapter it was.
Not sure. I know that he sort of pointed to them and said that they had personalities, but I think that's a different point.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, he mentions in the book that everyone wants to be like a Jesus or Buddha, but the Jesus and Buddha were Jesus and Buddha because they are being who they are, you know? Like how Alan Watts is. I can't be the next Alan Watts, you know? But I can be the next me. It's gonna be different. And I feel like that's what real enlightenment like kind of looks like too. Yeah.
Yeah, dropping comparisons. I mean, comparison in any form, really. You just start to see how unhelpful it is. Comparing yourself in professional ways is it's just like a road to anxiety without any real benefits usually. Unless, I mean, sometimes you have to be skillful and be like, oh, these are the norms of the things I'm trying to do, so let me be more this way or whatever. But like in that context, and especially in terms of how you live your life, like, it's just so unhelpful. And it's a real...
There's always going to be something. Like, there will always be something. It's just endless.
I feel most of my problem comes because of comparison in some unconscious way. That's what I feel, you know. Even with coding and stuff, I'm like, I know for a fact I'm probably comparing myself to something else because somehow I know that this is like a very shitty coding skill. Like I'm not really that good at coding, but how do I know that, you know?
Yeah, I'm a coder also, and it's always like, oh, this could be more efficient, this could be more elegant. Yeah.
Man, I could have written this with lesser bugs. I'm sure there's some guy out there who's writing this with like no bugs, you know, just typing, hit, run, execute.
Yeah. Did it in half the lines or whatever.
Yeah.
Just never ends.
Damn, I thought you were a psychologist, Ray. I didn't know you were a coder too.
Ray
I
was
do
everything.
it all. Yeah.
Ray was God, yeah.
He is all things.
Well, I run experiments, so I got to program these experiments and then analyze the data. And that's a lot of getting machines to do what you want, you know, which is fun.
When did this? I know I already asked it. When did this entire thing start? Like how?
When did this book club?
Yeah.
I was wondering that too. Was I first gen Boots with you, me, Sturge, and Trip, or was it before that?
That was it. You, me, and Trip. Surge. Yeah, dude. I mean, I miss Surge.
I miss Surge too.
Like he,
Heard about
like I don't know about you, but he heard about Surge. Um, I don't know about you, Rave, but like Surge, I felt like the first time kind of quiet, and then he just opened up, and I'm like, dude, he has some insight. Who is he?
Yeah, I remember he was like funny, just like a cool presence, and just totally fell off.
I mean, he just he wrote some awesome things in the chat. Like I really enjoyed reading it. Last thing I heard, he was doing like a mail route or something.
Yeah, that's familiar. And I know he started he said he had some type of training on Saturdays, but
Yeah,
never came back around.
Happens sometimes. It was good. It
Yeah.
was good to have him when we did. I mean, it was he brought some good points, and then Trip. I haven't heard from him in a while, but I know he was busy. At one point, that was part of why he stopped joining.
Yeah.
When he was in the first view for the Tao of Pooh, it sounded like he was in the middle of a life change, like maybe jobs or something like that.
Yeah, we talked a couple times, like Trip Brave and I, like just about his like work. He had something going on with work. I can't remember exactly what it was, like management or whatever. It was good times though. I mean, I just how groups go, people,
Yeah,
especially like groups like this, like just
it's a
in
curse
and
of
out
being an admin, right? Yeah,
of an admin.
yeah. Because you are like the constant, and you just see the seasons change. It's
Oh,
like
I mean,
yeah,
it's I kind of went into this just expecting it to, you
yeah,
know. It's just that's how everything goes.
yeah. I
It's
was
fun though. That's all
yeah,
that matters.
I was admin of a Discord server. I was like, this community for like psychology and stuff like that. And people come in, and they come in like groups too. They come in and then they leave. The new person comes in, they make a new friendship, then they leave. And it's all like a process of staying more present. I guess that's what it felt like. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yep.
It's because you can't uh think think of the moment I think of Boots as I mean like
As a
a different.
person, I'm not a person. I'm a robot.
It's okay. This is how you're supposed to think as Boots. It's just zeros and ones, guys. Just a voice amplitude. That's what Boots says, an amplitude. No, the moment I like think of Boots as a person, a past, a future, and all that stuff, make him real. Then the parting also would like be real, and I feel like that entire process would make me less present as a result. I wouldn't like enjoy the moment as much because I know sometimes it's gonna end, you know. And
Well,
this is
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I mean,
weird.
focusing on the ending is, you're outside of being present.
Yeah, yeah, I bet.
and there's a way in which reflecting on impermanence helps you to appreciate the present moment more because you realize how delicate and impermanent it is.
Hmm
Yeah,
Absolutely true.
yeah,
So I recently did a mushroom trip with my best friend,
nice.
and we had this exact like moment, like just being like, wow, we need to be like more thankful and present because it was just cool, just sitting. We were watching like the fireflies in the trees in his backyard.
Oh
We're
yeah,
playing some like STS 9, and the fireflies were like just blowing up, and it looked like it was like a light show because they were so bright. It was so dark, and they were so bright, and the music looked like a light show at like Red Rocks or something.
I have to like get shrooms. I'll do shrooms because the fireflies is so pretty. The last time I did shrooms, I was in a room, but yeah, yeah,
It's one of the things I like from Buddhism. They call these the daily reflections or remembrances or whatever, and it's sort of just like realizing that everything that you like is going to eventually be separated from
the
you.
nature of
Um,
impermanence. Yeah. Oh my god. Mm.
and it's just like if you're waking up and you're alive, you're relatively young and healthy, like you can just be endlessly thankful for those things
Hmm
because those are the three things that no matter how much money or privilege or whatever, that they will be gone. You know?
I feel like we talked about this, Rave, when to bring this up, sorry, but and your cat passed away.
Yeah.
Oh,
How we were
sorry.
just talking about
Yeah.
like how awesome it is. Like you have to have that piece of things to like really appreciate. I feel like present moment. The animals. That's what makes it so special, right? Because it's very fleeting.
Yeah, I mean, it was so he passed in February, and last summer, I mean, we really got some of the signs that he was slowing down. He was like 17 years old, but he was still healthy. But it was a summer I got to spend with him. I was living at home with an awareness that like I'm probably gonna move out soon. These might be our last like moments together, and they kind of were. So you just like every time you're there, you just try to be present with the fact that this is not going to be forever.
I think that's
Well, I'm
just
sorry
what
to hear
makes it
that.
more
That makes me
special.
think of my cat.
Uh,
It's hard.
Well,
You have a cat and a
yeah,
dog, is it? Nice.
it was a crazy powerful practice because I set the intention when it was clear he got real sick to just like be close to that process, the dying process. And one of the most interesting things I saw is like we humans suffer tremendously over this. But if I looked at him clearly as I could, he was very sick. He lost a ton of weight. He could like it was a struggle for him to walk, but he wasn't protesting. He would get up, drink some water, and then labor back and come back to the couch and go to sleep. And it was almost like he was like knew what was going on and was really peaceful.
Animals
And,
are like that.
yeah,
they just
They don't,
sometimes
they
they'll
don't
just
freak
go
out.
to their own. Yeah, they'll go to their. They'll even move away from you, which is funny. Like I know some people have found their animals like hidden somewhere. I wonder if there's like some element of trying to like save you from that. They know they can probably sense how you're feeling.
yeah,
It is funny they do just have this like acceptance of slowing down, and they kind of go gracefully in a way.
Hmm.
yeah. It was he was very much my guru in those moments of how to be open to life that way.
Guru and
Well,
drag,
then
or
The
maybe your
guru
it
original
kind
drag,
of
guru.
yeah. Yeah.
it's funny, but it's funny too how people will put down their animals to try to save them from suffering. They're just like racked with this guilt all the time of whether or not it was the right time and
Yeah.
that. It's funny how like we can make a choice like that for other animal or something like that. It's wild. Sorry I brought the group down.
No, I mean
Yeah.
it's very relevant
Yeah.
as long as Rave's okay. Because I know that's. I mean, I it would be. I know for a fact that will be a very hard time when that comes time for my cat.
Yeah, no, it was hard for sure, but it was sort of like, because I was trying so hard not to resist it, it was almost as if a big storm came and went. I did my crying and then it was like felt a lot lighter. I was at peace with it being over. So,
I think it's
yeah.
funny too because my family actually had a cat that my aunt had adopted, and she had to um wasn't able to take care of her really anymore. It just wasn't going to work out, and I had got connected through the book club again. And Raven, I've always been in contact, but after doing this, it all kind of worked out, and then his family ended up taking that cat. So now it's like that end had to happen for this new situation to arise. It's kind of like awesome how it all worked out. Like you wouldn't have had that opportunity with her if it wasn't for death happening. So it's like all comes full circle in the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A storm is a very good metaphor. for that experience.
It just really felt like that, it's trying hard not to identify with all the emotions involved, but feeling them completely and just
Mm-hmm.
how it came and just went. And it's a great opportunity to practice what he talks in this chapter is just don't turn away. Don't use spiritual practice to shield yourself from these things, but look at them as clearly as you can.
There's in Midnight Gospel, the very last episode is an episode with Duncan Trussell's mom, who passed away a few months after making the recording of that episode. And it's about death, it's about like losing a parent. And there's animation and everything. But he asks his mom, he's like, "What do you do?" Like he's like, "When you're gone, what do I do?" And her response is, "You cry," and that's it. And I thought that was a good like. I mean, when you're watching it, just hits you like, "Oh man, I'm gonna cry." But like, just as an answer, like, what do you do about death? Like, you cry. That's what you do.
You just feel it and
Mhm.
accept it, right? It comes back to acceptance.
Yep.
This is the way it is. That's what makes, the present so special.
Yeah. When you're present and thankful, and you have acceptance, like, and love, and all. I mean, everything does pass. I mean, really, that's why I like the storm metaphor so much, because it is. I mean, it's a storm, but it does. It can't storm all the time, and if it did, I mean, that would just be called like the weather, right? Like that's just every day.
Yeah,
It
see,
is it's
that's acceptance, Yeah, but if you expect,
that
I'm sorry, go on.
oh, I was just gonna say that clarity that you get when you're close to death, pretty amazing. It's funny for
Yeah.
something that's can be really like painful. Really gives you that clarity of like I almost feel how like everyone has that question of like would you want to know when you're gonna die kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you probably would live your life differently. Like that is the one absolute that we all have is that yeah we're all like inching towards death slowly, so why not live. I know it's like the cliche to say like every day like it's your last day, right? And like being around people who are chronically ill and they kind of have a timeline, you start to realize you're like it almost gives people that permission to just do whatever they want to do, which you always have that permission, but for some reason when it only feels like really real when you're faced with the end.
Yeah,
That's
I was
usually the time
thinking.
where it's hard.
I like another Ram Dass one is like because he used to work with dying people, and he said that when he woke up in the morning knowing he was going to be with a dying person later the day, he would get giddy and like happy. And he said it's because I know I'm going to have the opportunity to be in the presence of complete truth. That's
Mm-hmm.
there's really no way around that. And I've been doing one of the things I do semi regularly is like a meditation that deals directly with death. So it's like each breath, you take in, you sort of bring to your mind like you don't really know if there's going to be another one. Like this breath could be the last breath. And even if it's not your last breath, it's one breath closer to your final breath.
Mm-hmm.
So just like really letting that in. And
Mm-hmm.
um, what it does, it's kind of magical in a way because like we get so caught up with all this, trying to prioritize what's important, blah, 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 and all this stuff we get bogged down in. When you focus on the fact that like in 100 years, none of us will be here anymore, hardly anyone will even remember, then it's just like really just automatically shifts what you hold as important, what you put your energy into, and all of that stuff happens pretty automatically.
Like when I read about those tragedies of, when you just like was on their way to work and a freak accident happened, always a part of me that's like, do they have any kind of sense of that happening that day?
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange.
Likely not.
Yeah, it's so strange because we're so confident all the time that they're just gonna go like status quo. And you hear these stories, and then it, could be scary for some people to hear about that possibility.
Yeah, it can really
Like
shake
that,
somebody up.
yeah, because like that person woke up the same way we did this morning and had breakfast and whatever. Maybe was mad about something that happened yesterday, and like frustrated, whatever happened, and then it's just it. Strange thing.
Yeah, there was a Ramdas thing where like a woman asks, "How do I love myself?" And he says, rather than asking how to love yourself, reframe it and ask, "How can I accept myself?" And she was like, "Yeah, this happened. I broke up or something. It's been like 8 months." And he's like, "What? Just 8 months? Go grieve some more, grieve for 2 more years and then come back." And that was funny. Because I think Ramdas is the one who like pointed out, don't sacrifice your humanity, don't don't think your humanity is like an invalid form of expression. And I feel that's like huge. Like not denying your feelings in this present moment, accepting it.
Well, does anyone have any other? I have puppy duty coming up, so
Oh yeah,
gotta take
nice.
care
How
of.
is the puppy?
How's the
He's doing
puppy?
well. Here, I'll share a picture in book club channel.
Hey.
I forgot to last time, so I will right now.
Eh,
He's doing very well. He's a very smart dog. He's getting used to his little
smart dog? Are
kennel.
you comparing this dog to some other dogs now? Woods? Come on. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, there are some pretty dumb dogs. He's
Mine's
also,
not that smart, so
I mean, he's also kind of dumb in other areas, like the cat. Like the cat does not like to be around him, and he has not got the message yet.
isn't that the sweet thing about dogs though? Like
Oh wow, so
my
cute.
dog's that way where no matter how a cat or another dog is to him, he will still like blindly go back to them even though he was like almost attacked before.
I know.
Like, is that dopey or is that just unconditional love that he's
No,
giving to
dog,
everybody around him?
the dog is practicing acceptance. Yeah,
Yes.
so cute. Yeah.
So but he's very smart. I mean, he's learned how to wait.
Oh
So
my
like, oh,
gosh. So tiny.
um, I can hold up my hand like stop, like I'll do like stop, and I can like walk around him, and I can sit down, and he won't move until I tell him to come. So he's very smart. He
Wow.
learns very quick. But like smart dogs are also like need tons of entertainment all the time.
Mhm.
They sell these really cool toys at like hide the treats and lock them in, and it's like they have to pull out certain areas. It's like what do you call those kind of boxes?
Mystery box.
Yeah, something like that, but for
We have
dogs.
one of those, I think. It's like it's so basically there's a bunch of little pieces of like sushi, and they have to like slide it down in
Wow.
a certain order to reveal the treat. And
Yeah, and
we're gonna
that's
introduce that to him soon.
that's perfect for a dog like him, that kind of breed. You said Australian, right?
Yeah, he's an Australian Shepherd.
Yeah. He's gonna need a lot of stimulation. They're like the board chewers.
Dude, oh my, you've pretty much like just called how my last month has been. He chews incessantly, and
Choose
like
what
he
Yeah.
has so many
exactly?
toys, but he'll just chew. He'll go after like my chacos because I think he likes
Mm.
smell. I think he likes chewing smelly things. I don't get
Well,
it.
they like stuff that's yours too. I mean, mine
Yes.
has eaten maybe 5 pairs of my sunglasses, and not
What?
like The little
my
like cheap
goodness.
sunglasses, like 5 pairs of Ray-Bans. Like I keep buying new ones, which is a waste of money, I'm finding. But he's like the most expensive mixed breed adopted dog that I've ever owned. So
Man,
I've
they
paid
chew
I've
like
paid for it.
crazy.
Yeah.
You
Well, he
paid-
like gets nervous too. Sometimes it's like anxious, but I bet yours is probably teething too because he's gonna probably lose his teeth.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely to come. But he does it for several different reasons, and he has different things he chews for different reasons. Like I'm convinced he has like a comfort chew toy, and then he has a play chew toy, and then he has I just got in trouble chew toy.
I got in troubleshooter. I
He's
need
very
I need to rock
selective.
that.
Like he doesn't have like a favorite. Like it's all very different toys for different things.
Sorry, I don't know the answer to this one, but I'm learning.
Leave him somewhere, and he'll like find them specifically, even though he has. It's almost like he's mad at me, so he's like, "I'm gonna chew these. What
Yeah,
you love."
He always seems upset by these, so I'm gonna chew on these.
Yeah.
Fuck
Well,
this
mine
guy.
is really funny too. He'll grab something that he's not supposed to have if I'm not paying attention to him and slowly bring it out into the room while staring at me because he knows it'll get me up. So he'll like hold it in his mouth but not really chew it and look at me until I go to get up to get it from
It's
him.
like a
And I'm
herding
like,
dog.
yeah.
The opposite of herding,
It
though.
is.
It's like I'm gonna sit here and you're gonna come to me.
Yeah. They're funny though.
Yeah, he's fun. I really enjoy seeing just like how he learns. I mean, it's super cool. But man, he's a handful.
Damn.
Definitely a
Yeah,
handful.
yeah, guys.
What's his name?
Zeke.
What?
Zeke.
Zeke?
It's Zeke.
Zeke?
Yeah, Zeke.
Oh,
Zeke.
Zeke.
That's a cool name, dude.
We had a friend growing up called Veek.
What does that mean?
It was it?
Do what?
Well, the guy that we know, it was his last name, but it was like shortened his last name.
Oh,
which
really?
was Zeek.
Because his last name was Vanderbeek.
I didn't know that.
Ah.
Wow. I just thought it was Veek.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Interesting.
What does that mean? Does it mean anything or just like it's just a word?
No, there's an anime my friends and my girlfriend watch, and
Oh, really? Which anime?
there's a character, Attack on Titan,
Oh.
and there's a character named Zeke, and so we're like,
Yeah.
why not Zeke? Seemed like a good name. We were just going through names of like shows and things we watched, and
You watch anime, suppose? Damn, I watch a lot of animes too. Not anymore though.
yeah, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah. Very artistic. But
I like the recent ones that have come. Some recent ones that have come out. Very good art, cool
Okay.
stories. I mean, anytime a new Attack on Titan's out, I'm watching one that's called Inuyashiki. Not to be confused with like the '90s Inuyasha, but Inuyashiki is like a really cool. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of morals and like ideas about death in it. Super neat. It's very dark and somewhat violent. Most anime is, or at
Wait,
least
oh
for some
my
reason,
God.
ones I find.
Is it that one where the old guy turns into a robot or something?
Yeah, don't give away too much though, in case people want to look it up. It's
Oh,
pretty good.
Oh my
All of
God.
our YouTube viewers don't want to spoil it for the thousands of people.
Oh my God. That's one anime I couldn't watch because it's like, dude, I find like a guy turning into like a robot inside and all very disturbing. Not that
So
disturbing. It's
if
kind
you
of
could get
disturbing.
like the first episode is a big bummer. It's very death based. It's just sad. But then like at the very end, like you're okay, and then like 3 episodes in, you're like, this is an amazing show.
Yeah.
So I really like it. It's very dark, but like it has a lot of cool like philosophical bits in it. Kind of reminds me if you ever seen Death Note, which is
Yeah.
another good one. If you haven't seen Death Note's like top 5 easily.
Yeah, no, I would. It's like the beginner recommendation anime, right? Yeah. But we should end soon. Rabe, you have any poem?
I don't
I'd
know. I
love that
mean,
one.
Nina has slipped
Mm.
another week without answering free will
Oh.
questions.
Oh yeah.
I thought she did answer the free will question, no?
Oh, I kind of did, I guess.
Look, you actually kind of did.
I
We
guess
collaboratively.
I guess my answer would be no, right?
Oh,
Kind of
we
what
have
we were
free
talking
will.
about earlier.
I think.
There
I mean,
is
if your
really an
answer's,
absolute answer.
I don't think there is. I think that's the ultimate
Oh.
thing. It's like it's a mixture of a few things.
Some elements of free will,
It's
but
like I
then
can't
there's
control my hunger, but I can control
Oh.
what I like satiate my hunger with.
Mm.
Like
I know.
so.
I think that you kind of explained it earlier perfectly.
after
Just
reading
kind of
this, after reading this chapter, it's almost like any fixed answer to the free will question is getting stuck on one side or the other of absolute versus relative, right? Because no free will is
exactly.
And
absolute.
dualities too. You need to
Yeah.
see
So
you need to see
I mean,
yourself
honestly, if
in
you begin to insist on any of them too, it's like, well, why are you insisting so hard?
yeah.
yeah.
You need to see yourself in a dualistic view for a free will concept to even exist. Oh, there is me, there is something else, and there's something else. Now I have to like choose. Can I choose? I don't know.
I don't know though. It's like, well, you start thinking too, like, what would change if was an absolute to that question too? Like, I don't know. Would you be able to live your life differently, or just be accepting of the way of like, well, I have no free will, so I'm just gonna be like, I don't know. It would change anything either.
My
Early
view
on
on
in
that.
my
Go on.
early on in my philosophy ventures, it was actually just a lot of fun to like treat it like a pair of glasses you're putting on. Okay, today there's no free will, and just look at people on the street in that way,
Yeah.
And it does change. It just like everything is a lot lighter. People are just doing what they're doing. That's it.
That's an interesting practice because there really is no harm in that as long as you're not like you're making big decisions for the day. I guess like
Right.
like what the with like world hunger or anything.
Yeah.
But if you're just like yeah, right. Just like if you're just walking to work, and you want to do people watching, there's nothing wrong with like just putting on a different pair of glasses and seeing what comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. The perspective I like is that you need to be in like a dualistic position to even experience free will. So if I remove all the dualities and look at things in an absolute way, the free will concept it kind of like ceases to like have any meaning. It doesn't exist really what because there will only be will. There won't be anything. It's free on free. There's just be will, right? But then I feel like as you create more dualities, there's me, there's someone else, there's both stuff. I feel then there is free will. I like that framework. Might or might not be true. But I like to think that there is free will. But I also can see how in an absolute way there cannot be. And I'm fine with that. Yeah. But that's the perspective I like to live by. It's nothing like I don't think it's the truth. I have not put that much thought into it. It's so confusing. But this is my current perspective. It's still in line with all this acceptance stuff. But this still also gives me the luxury to like choose. At least have this feeling of choosing. But it feels like that to me, and I can't deny that.
Mhm.
Well, as always, it's good to talk to you all, and
Yeah.
hope everyone has a good weekend.
Yeah. So poem.
Yeah, I have a poem that might be appropriate to close if we're in the
Nice.
spirit.
You're always
Hit-
welcome to share.
Hit it.
Okay, so this is Byron Katie, so that's relevant, and
Oh, there we
it
go.
deals with everyone's favorite. Deals with opening to things that are unpleasant. So here we go. An uncomfortable feeling is not an enemy. It's a gift that says, get honest, inquire. We reach out for alcohol or television or credit cards so that we can focus out there and not have to look at the feeling. And that's as it should be, because in our innocence, we haven't known how.
Wow.
So now, what we can do is reach out for a paper and pencil, write thought down, and investigate. The end.
Damn. That's man. That's
Good.
Great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I would expect from Byron Katie.
I'll post the videos as well in the chat.
Cool.
I'll
Do that.
see you guys. Bye.
All right. Have a
Have a
good
good week.
weekend,
Bye.
everyone, and see you next week.
Bye.
Sounds
You
good.
too. Bye.